All right, welcome to Foundations of Human Design. I think this is class 8. And today we're going to talk about definition. And it's all in the notes. I'm going to pull it up and share the screen as well with you guys this class, because I have it all in the notes and it's on the class notes. So if you go on that original Google Doc that I made for class notes, everything is in there. So you can follow along on your end if you'd like to, or just, watch the screen. But everything is in there for you. So I will say this too. I wanted to just open up first before we go into this. How has it been going with those of you that's on the call tonight? Like with the readings, with the practice readings a couple weeks ago, that was, one of the things that we talked about doing. And I know a few of you had some issues with it and maybe didn't link up with your partner or had some issues with linking up or whatnot. And so I wanted to just kind of talk about that just a little bit here before we get going. So whoever would like to start first, that would be great. Or I can pick too, if you'd like.
I'll start.
It's all good. Okay.
Oh, did somebody else want to start?
No, go for it.
Oh, okay. I was just going to say that, I had Beth, and her and I went over ours briefly with each other. And I think that it went well. And I think that there was questions and stuff like that from last week that I think she addressed that she had, and vice versa. So I think for us, it was a success. We didn't get to go back over it this week. I think maybe her schedule just didn't really align and stuff like that. So, and vice versa. But anyway, I thought it went pretty good.
That's great. So let me ask you, when you guys were doing this back and forth, did any fear or any uncertainty or anything come up? Like what was what did you experience for yourself having to have somebody else's chart, right? Like in front of you? What was that like for you?
Well, in the beginning of it, I was a little bit apprehensive because I didn't really have all the details. Like she didn't have hers where it was like the chart where you had type, definition, strategy, profile, and all that stuff laid out with the numbers. So for me, it was kind of good because it did challenge me. I had to actually figure out all of her numbers with the information that you've already given us, like how the right side is this and the left side is that, where the points are and all that. So really for me, I enjoyed it more because I didn't have it all laid out for me. And then when I was going through it, she was like, this is right. I said, am I right in this? Is this right? Is this right? And it was right. So that was kind of cool. The only thing that I didn't have from hers, but I think I sort of figured it out a little bit, was her right angle cross of the vessel of love kind of thing. I guess the incarnation cross or whatever. And I told her I thought she was a right angle because of the 3-5. But other than that, I didn't know all the different 25, 46, whatever, but I figured it out from her chart and try to look at those numbers within that and see if I was right or not. But other than that, I think I did okay.
That's awesome. We didn't even go through crosses. So that's great. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I mean, we went through the profiles, right? And then the profiles will indicate whether it's right angle cross or left angle, right? Or juxtaposition. But at this point, we haven't gone through the crosses. So that's awesome. Oh, that's great.
Okay. Well, cool.
Yeah. No, I love that. That's the thing too, right? Like I'll do that at times too. Even when I'm looking at an astrology chart, like I have a program, a professional program where like I can pull up like definitions and all these things and like angles and stuff. But the best thing to learn, because sometimes you don't have access to that, right? Like is by trying to just figure it out. I'm like, okay, like if this and this. So I love how you did that. I love how you said that challenged you and you had to just figure some of those things out on your own without, being dependent on that. Now there's no issue of being, like having that information in front of you either, especially in the beginning. But I love that you did it. You weren't like, I don't have the information, I can't do it. You just did it and you challenged yourself and rose up to that. So that's awesome.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. Congratulations. All right. I know Eric was going to say something next.
Yeah, things went pretty good. We did what we could, like through Messenger and everything. We just went over like a lot of the types and the profiles and a lot of stuff like that. It's about what we did, but with what we could remember and everything like that.
Cool.
I
So
know
what came up for you, or what was it like for you to do that?
it was to go through that, the generator, the types, like the profile. I struggle with everything else. I'm not gonna lie right now with remembering everything else. But I also did, like, I reached out to my sister and one of her friends and a coworker and said, "Hey, would you be open to a reading as well?" Just to try to get a little bit better at it or pick up on something and everything. But it was pretty much just all like the types and the profiles is pretty much what I was getting,
I,
everything like that.
I love that. I did that in the beginning too, just to practice. I was just
Hmm.
like, hey, if you're open, like just free, let's just like go into this and let me just like read this, for you. One of the other things that helped me as well too is, and this, take this for whatever, it's worth and how it lands for you. But I would just open up a Google Doc, and I still do that actually, like for my clients, I'll just take notes on it, but now I'll just write down like highlights of like things that, I'm like, okay, if I know, like, okay, they're a generator, right? In the beginning, I'm like, okay, that's right. Let me get the highlights of like a generator, right? And then I'll put that in the description, a generator. So I'll make a note, right? Google Docs is awesome, or any other program that you have, right? Like for that, where put their name and their type, their profile, whatever. And then I'll put a description of it. And then I have that already there in front of me, like for the reading. So then I'm like, okay, now I can just go from this, but I actually have the foundation. So then I can build on that, like while I'm talking to them. And all that will come with just more practice, more experience, and just more confidence. The more you do, the more confident you're going to be, right? In this, just like anything else, right? The more you do it, the more you just jump into the deep end and just do it, the more confident you'll be. But that might help too, because I know you were saying, just, you made a comment of just from what you could remember. So I did another class last year that, or no, January, I guess, of this, my gosh, January of this past year. It's crazy. And I have all of the material from that I'm going to put in the group as well too, that has a generator, that has projector, and a whole write-up on it. So you can take whatever, you want from there and use it for your notes, use it for your, when you do readings for someone and whatever. So, I don't want you to rely on that, but like use it for your readings until you can just speak from it without having to have those notes, if that makes sense, but use the notes. I mean, it's training wheels, so like use the training wheels that you got. And then at some point you can take them off. I mean, that's what we're here for, so that might help you, like when you're doing the readings too. So just to write out those notes beforehand. So. All right, Sue.
So I was not able to connect with my partner. So I had printed up a while ago the charts for my children, and I'm more focused on my older one, but they're both manifesting generators. But my son is a 6'2", like I am, my older son. And it's so interesting because the not self theme being frustration throughout his whole life, even when he was a baby, if he and a young child, when he was in school, if he couldn't get something the first time, oh my gosh, he would throw a fit and cry. And part of it might have been due to his level of development. But even now, I mean, I remember when he was 13 or 14, he was cooking and he was trying to flip an egg and it broke and he threw the spatula across the room. I said, okay, maybe you need a break. Maybe you just need to step back and take a little break. But, the responding and the frustration of that, it's very interesting. I really wish I knew what all these colors meant though. I'm like, he's got green and brown and red and like stripes in his, like what the heck is that?
So the colors aren't really a whole lot, honestly.
Oh,
they
okay.
They are in some programs, depending on like if you get a professional program. And at the end of this, I'll share with you like a few different ones that are out there. Some that are more expensive than others, what I use, things like that. But in 64 keys is one of them that I use. Or no, is it that one? Yeah, I think it's that one. That it'll show like some centers, and we won't get into this now, but some centers are also, just like there's a conscious side and unconscious side, some of the centers are unconscious also.
Okay.
So sometimes the colors in certain programs will show the centers of being like, are they conscious even of their emotional definition?
Oh, okay.
Some
Okay.
people aren't even conscious of that. Like, just because the center is defined, they have that energy there, but they might not be fully conscious of it. Or it might be partly, and a lot of it is the gates. So if you can look at the gates, so the striped gate, like the striped that you're talking about, like the red and the black, generally is in there. That means that if you look at that gate, so say it's 35, or well, which gate?
It's there's one that is 3254.
Okay, so that gate, that's the striped one, that 32, or the 54, or if they're both.
54, it's stitching the 54.
54. Okay. So you'll look at the conscious, you'll find the conscious, and you'll find it in the unconscious also.
Yes. Oh my gosh, that's cool. Okay.
So then they have both of that on both sides. And sometimes they're in different planets. They can have different line numbers. You know, one might be a 0.2 and one might be a 0.4. One might be in Venus, where one might be a North Node, you know, on the other one, or whatever it is. But yeah, that's what it means when you see the striped
Okay.
channels.
It's interesting because he's a 6'2" like I am. And I was looking and I'm like, okay, you're going through 3 stages of your life, you know, the first 30 years. And I'm just kind of relating that to what I see in him. And now he's only 18. So he's still in his first 30-year cycle, you know, when you kind of need alone time and you're figuring it out. And
he's in his nodal return too. So this is a big transition in his life. He's probably having a lot of changes in his life as well too, possibly decisions to make. And
yes.
Yeah. So that's astrology, but yeah, 18 is a nodal return. So that's a big year. So
it's fun to look at this. And I really, I want to, you know, dive deeper into it and take your next group of classes to really know what all the gates mean and stuff. But I just kind of went with it. I was feeling, like you said, a little bit anxious looking at it, but I'm like, you know, let's just have fun with it. It's not, you know, do or die or anything like that. So
I love that. And that's really, it is. It's like, have fun with it. Right. And so it's like, we block ourselves by, you know, it's like trying to think it has to be perfect, or, you know, we have to get it right, you know, when so much of this is the thing I really want to drive home with this, because this is what I spent so long, like, with giving myself permission to speak from my perspective and my lens, like knowing the information, learning it, right? And then allowing myself to like understand it based on what was coming to me, and trusting those, and it took a while, and it still is in process, but like, it's an art form. This is truly an art form. And every human design analyst, every human design analyst or reader, every astrologer, you're going to get a different reading. Like, you're going to get similar stuff, right? But like, you're going to get a different like flavor. Let's just say flavor, right? You're going to get the ice cream, right? Wherever you're going to go, but you might get a different flavor based on who you go to. And it's all beautiful and it's all your truth, right? But it's the filter. It's based on their design. It's based on their experience in their life. It's based on their perspective and how they're seeing life, and then how they're looking at the chart and how their own interpretation. It's just like an artist with a canvas, right? You can have several different artists. You tell them to paint one thing, they're going to have different variations of the same thing. It's still a bird. It's still an apple. It's still a whatever, but it's going to be different, and it's going to be beautiful. They're all going to be beautiful in their own way. And guess what? Whoever comes to you is going to resonate with you and your energy, right? And so trust that. That's the biggest thing. Trust it, because this is an art form. You know, whether you're reading astrology charts, human design, or tarot, or any card, anything like that, we have to like bring in our own even intuition and part of it as well too. And we have to be careful we're not projecting our own stuff, right?
Mhm.
Like through it, because that's just part of us being human too. So we have to keep that in check. But it's really just, it's an art form. And so it's like having fun with it and allowing whatever to flow through. And I always say too, in readings, like, especially if you've gotten a reading from me, you'll know, like, I'm like, you know what, like, check this with yourself first, like, allow this to like resonate with you, but this is kind of what I'm feeling or getting. Like, does this resonate? Does this, so ask those questions too, right? Like when you're in a reading with someone, because you might have something come through and they might be like, no, that's not at all, right? Or they might be like, yeah, that's spot on. And there's times that literally I have not said something because for fear of like, whatever. And then they'll say it later on. I'm like, oh, yes, like I was getting that. Or like, I will say this, there was one time in a reading, this was just this past summer, and I can't remember if it was human design or astrology, but I was like, I got this visual, and that's the thing too. So we all have a superpower, right, within our human design. And I can go over with each one of you guys if you want and share with it what it is, because it's a little bit different. It's harder to read. You don't just get it on a typical chart. But anyways, so you're going to access, the more you do this, you're going to activate your own superpowers, like within you, right? Your own intuition, whether you're visual, whether you're auditory, whether you're going to get smells maybe that might remind you of something that might bring up, and then you're going to be like, getting this, right? So there's a little like a kind of almost intuitive / psychic kind of element. And depending on how you're designed, right? Like you're going to sometimes have more of that than other people or whatever, but it comes through the more you do this. And this summer I was reading a chart and I got this visual of her. I didn't know who she was at all. I've never met her in my life, like not even friends with her on Facebook or anything like that. And I got this, so I'm telling you that because I didn't know any of her story at all before coming into this. And I was like, I'm picturing you, I don't know, I'm like in a graveyard, like in places like summoning or casting out like spirits, or there's something there that you're doing this work. And she's like, oh yeah, she was a psychic for the police and like FBI and stuff for like years before. And she had done all these things before, like I'm like, okay, so, but had I not said that, right, a couple of years ago, I never would have thought to say that. I'm like, that's nuts. Like, and, but, I'm just like, I don't know, like, take this for whatever it's worth. And she's like, oh my God. Yeah. And so you don't know, like, trust those things that come to you and just go with it and have fun with it, and clear that out with the person in the beginning, especially when you're starting. Just be like, hey, I'm new at this, so there's going to be some things that you might feel really spot on. There's going to be some things that I'm going to be like maybe a little rough with, but I'm learning, so please have patience with me, and let's just do this together and let's have fun with this. And so you can have that agreement with whoever you're reading for in the beginning until you get kind of more of that confidence. It'll, like I said, it'll come. The more you do it, the more that will just start to come, and I'm still nervous every time I do a reading, because especially if it's somebody that, actually, even when I know somebody, because I'm like, okay, that filters, that's like a different level of stuff too. But it's just, but it's not about us, right? It's about the information that we're putting through, and it's about helping someone get in touch with who they are. And that's really the biggest thing. So if we can ground back into that, for any time that we're reading somebody's chart, it's about allowing them to see themselves and seeing someone. The gift of seeing someone and allowing them to be seen is one of the best gifts that we can give someone. And most people go through their life not ever being seen, whether it's by themselves or by another. So this is truly a gift that we can give people, when we're in that state. So anyway, I just went off on that. So all right. Alicia, how did it go for you?
Okay, so I ended up doing like a typed out reading with my partner because we weren't able to get together for a video chat, but did kind of what you said earlier, like getting together some different notes and stuff. I use a few different resources, like my notes from class and a couple websites and stuff. Yeah, like a week or two ago, I worked with a couple friends and read their charts. So just kind of playing around with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How's it going? Like, I mean, is
It's
it
good.
been fun? I
I'm
mean,
having fun with it. Yeah. Definitely just like anytime like my kid does something, I'm like, oh, I wonder if that's because of this, you know. So I have to like look everybody's chart up like constantly. I'm finding myself doing this. Your friends and family and whatnot, but
oh yeah,
just look at everybody's chart.
yep. It gets in your like DNA, and all of a sudden you start to see the world through like human design lens or astrology lens or Gene Keys lens or whatever. It's like, ooh, I wonder if they're this. Oh, I wonder. It's kind of like I put a post on Krishnamurti the other day, and like a while back, I love him, by the way, but but I was like, God, he's got to have the 8th code in his chart. Like he's got to. I'm like, I wonder if his chart's out there. And I pull it up, and of course he's got that, like I think it's his North Node or something like that. And I'm like, oh, I knew it. Like, because you start to bring out the more it's like you start to see the behaviors in people, and you're like, I wonder if they've got this. And it's just really interesting because it's kind of like I don't know, it's like you're playing Clue. It's like a detective, so it can be fun. Especially when you're like, oh my God, yeah, like that was right. I was on, and then we can really start to this is when we can start to give people permission to be themselves, right? Because it's like, if we know somebody has, let's just say even the 35-36, I posted on this, that's a full channel. It goes from the emotional center up to the throat on the far right when you're looking at the chart. And they have that whole channel. They're going to be literally doing things just for the sake of the experience. And it's a beautiful energy.
My son did that over the summer. He went to some secret place in Pennsylvania, which I made him tell me where it was just because for the sake of safety.
Yeah.
And they jumped off of a bridge into water, and he's not a heights type of person. And I'm like, me as a mom inside, I'm going, oh my God, but I didn't want to project that onto him. I'm like, okay, so you need to tell me where you are and tell me when you're done, so I know that you're okay. And he said when he got to the top, he threw up because he was so scared, but he wanted to do it for the experience. And he is totally connected 35-36.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I wish I had this when they were like 3 years old.
I know, right? No, I hear you totally.
Wow.
That's awesome. And that's the other thing too. So say you even have just the 35 or just the 36, right? When you get together with somebody that has the opposite gate, like your relationship is going to be about experiencing things just for the sake of the experience. Like I had a really good friend, and he was a roommate of mine for a while, and like we played music together, and it was like just for the experience of that. Like that was the most fun thing to do together, was to play drums, play music, and just to jam, and just for the experience of that and nothing more. And so it's a really beautiful energy, but it's like not getting attached to it, right? But anyway, I mean, now we can start to see that and go, oh, okay, well, that's just who they are, right? And so I don't have to like try to put something else on this person, based on my own expectations or my own whatever, blah, blah, blah. But, we can start to see and break that down and start to accept people for who they are and their own expression. So yeah, it's cool. I have the 36, so I call in a lot of 35s, people who have 35s. So you'll notice that too in your chart. Like if you start to look at people, their chart, you'll start to see some gates that are going to complement. And that's actually a really great lead in to the definition that we're going to start with before moving into the head center. I wanted to quick give Mandisa time if she wanted to share as well too, if she was able to share with her or to read with her partner, or was that Eric? I can't remember. Was it you? I can't remember who I paired together now, so forgive me. But Mandisa, were you able to practice with your partner?
Hey, I'm here. Sorry, I could not get the screen up to unmute myself.
That's okay.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So I did not get practice with my partner because I didn't realize you scheduled, like you put the partners out there until yesterday.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
And my partner, yeah, it was Edward. And so I went back to make sure I didn't miss a message from him, but I didn't get a message from him at all. So I was hoping we could connect tonight so we can get that done.
Awesome. Cool. All right. Well, yeah, keep us posted. We'll check in again next week too. So that's awesome. All right. What's that, Mandy?
Can I ask a quick question?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
So I know for tonight's notes, you said that you need to go to Google Docs, and is that within the foundations of human design? Because I'm sort of not really getting the notes anyway. I'm just sort of taking my own. So I don't know exactly where
Yes.
it is, but.
So let me go into there actually right now, and I will show you guys where it's at. Hold on one second. Let me find it myself here. I have so many tabs open. It's crazy. I have like 4 screens with like, they're all full of tabs. Facebook.
Because I didn't know if it was under topics.
Let's see. I will make sure that under topics, yes, it should be, and then class notes.
Okay. So would it be?
So if you click on class notes, it'll say outline of class 2 notes, but if you just click on that Google Doc, I add to it every week. And so everything should be on there, like all of the, yep, there's 30 pages of notes in there.
Oh, okay. Well, I wonder why it won't let me get the rest of the notes. I only see like 3 pages of notes.
Are you on a laptop or phone?
Yeah, I'm on a laptop.
Okay.
Yeah, that's weird.
Yeah, and you clicked on the class notes, the hashtag class notes.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let me know if anybody like, because it'll say, so I'm looking at it, says October 27, outline of class 2 notes.
Yep.
And then there's a link. It says docs.google.com, class notes for foundations of HD.
Okay. So maybe I didn't click on that part. That was the part I was wondering. Maybe that's it. So let me see if it will pull up from there.
Cool.
Yeah, maybe so. Okay, I'll take a look at that while you're talking. Sorry. Thank you.
No, that's okay. Yep. So there should be 30 pages of notes that I have in there for you so far from all the classes. So some of them have more, some of them just have like kind of a brief, like kind of summary so that you can fill in also with your notes, but I just designed it. You can print it off at the end of class, fill it in, with your own notes, on a printout kind of thing. I didn't have the option to edit because I didn't want everybody's notes in there as I'm, doing it, but it's there though, so that you can print them off and keep them with your own notes or add to them as well too, as you would like to. So, all right. So that gives a really great, I'm going to share my screen and there we go, share. All right, can everybody see this? Right here, so I have class 8 definition, and this is all in the class notes, so you'll see those once you go into there and click on it. It's all there for you. I just thought giving you a visual for this, and I'm going to be straight up completely honest with you, and I feel that this is like a really good thing actually to share, especially at this time. I've said before too in this class that trust what you're receiving when you're receiving it for human design, because there's so much information. If the only thing that you're able to receive right now is maybe just understanding the types, then just get good on those types, right? On the generator, understanding what that means. If you're like having issues with other things, totally okay. It will come to you as it comes to you. So I say this because this is a definition, right? So we're going to talk about single definition, split definition, triple, and quadruple. Here's the thing. I still don't understand this fully. This part of human design baffles me still. And I've tried and my mind does not grasp it fully. So here's what I do. I understand the basic of what I need to understand with it to be able to give somebody information on it. And then I continue to learn more as I learn more. And I trust that I'll get it when I'm meant to get it. As long as I keep, on it and keep, curious about it, it will come. It just hasn't fully come yet. So does that make sense to everybody? Okay, so to teach on something that I don't fully understand, I just, as a 6'2", I need to share that with you. So it's like, this is one part of human design that I'm like, okay, like I understand the concept of it, but the details of it behind it, when I look at a chart, I still just don't understand exactly like how to identify it, but I know what each one means. So that's what I'm going to present to you tonight. And then it'll be a challenge for you guys, if you would like to like learn more about it, to dig into this as well too. I will say though too, that it's not the most like pertinent information that you need in order to read a chart. So, so it's okay if there's going to be some things that you're going to get and some things that you're not going to get now. And that's totally okay. Just keep at it and you'll get it as time comes. So basically, definition, I just want to go over this, and I don't want to spend a whole lot of time on this. I want to really get into the head center tonight, but definition really, but it's like our circuitry in the chart. So if you look at all the gates and the lines and everything like that, if you think of it as like a roadway system, this is the simplest way I can describe it. If you think of it as like, when you're going into a big city and you're seeing all the highway and the byways and everything else, and it's exactly like that. So if you look at the body graph, like right here, right on the single definition, the gates and everything else, all of the definition, the things that are defined, that are colored in, right? You could think of it as like, those are highways. And the more they're connected to each other, along with the centers that are defined, the quicker information will move within us. So it's like, if you've been driving, right, and there's like a bottleneck, or you get like, all of a sudden there's construction right on a roadway, you're like, oh gosh, now I got to take a detour, right? Because it's not connected yet. Maybe there's a roadway, they're doing construction, and where you're going, there's like a break in the road, and you have to take a detour to go around to get back on this road, right? It's the same thing. It's basically, that's how, like, think of it like that. So single definition, right? So it's basically all like the defined centers and the channels are all connected. So it's just like one circuitry where everything is connected to each other. There's no break of communication within that actual body graph or within that chart. It's 42% roughly are single definition. Most people are split definition. So single definition too, if you can think of it like this, I have it down here. They process information quickly, and they don't need somebody to process with. While other people that are split definition, or the split definitions, generally need, like, if there's something coming up within them, they'll need somebody just to help process the information, somebody that bridges their split, which we'll talk about here in just a minute. So that's single definition. So the circuitry is all, there's no like construction on the roadways. There's no break. There's just like a continuous flow of information, and they can process pretty quickly. And because all of their centers that are defined are in communication with each other. So the split definition is two separate circuits of defined centers that are not connected. So this is a example here, and this is the majority of the people. About 46% of people are split definition. So the majority of people you're going to come across are either just split definition with just one split, or single definition where there's no break at all in communication. So you can even see here too, like right here, there's no connection between the center and the throat, right, and the spleen. there's like a break. So there's needs to be a gate that bridges this split right here. So there's a split definition. So if they were in contact with someone that had the 16, right? They have the 48, but they need a 16, then there would be a direct connection from the spleen to the throat. So they'd be able to have that speaking power from that spleen. This center then would be able, and everything that's in the center, the energy of the center would be able to move like freely up to the throat if they're around somebody that has, one of these two channels, one of these two gates right here. And so that's a split definition. Now, triple split and quadruple split, like literally, like I think I've seen 2 triple splits maybe that in the times that I've done it. I mean, 11% of the population, 1% of the population for the quadruple split. It's very rare. So, and these people have a lot of centers defined in their charts. So to have triple split definition and quadruple split, people are needing at least 6 centers defined, and quadruple, they have 8 centers defined out of the 9, and sometimes 9. So that's very rare, like very rare. So, so basically our definition affects how we interact with others, and also how coherent our connection to ourselves is. So I'll give you an example. Like my chart, I have a open head, and I have a completely open ajna or mind. There's no gates at all in there at all. My throat is defined. So I have a split there's no connection between my head center, my throat down to my G center, there's some areas there. So there's like times that like, actually, I'm going to give you a better example. My emotional center and my throat center. Sue and I, we were just talking about the 35-36 channel. I have the 36. So when somebody comes in and they have the 35, that bridges my split to my throat. So because it makes a complete full channel. So I don't want this to be more confusing, because it can feel like really confusing, and it's not anything that you really need to fully understand. There's more important things in human design to understand first before this. But one of the things that the biggest thing to understand is that it's our circuitry. It's how connected we are with ourselves and how we are naturally attracted to other people, because we're naturally attracted to other people who will complete us, so to speak. Remember that Jerry Maguire movie? It was like, "You complete me," that whole thing. Like, as cheesy as it is, there is truth in that, because energetically we're attracted to like the opposite of who we are in a lot of ways. The things that complete us, we will naturally be attracted to, and those things they can be great. However, the biggest thing is like, and this is applicable right now in the energy that we're in as well too, with codependency, sometimes it can cause codependency to happen. So if you're around people that you're like, oh my gosh, I just don't know, what I would do without them kind of thing, pay attention. Like there might be like somebody could be bridging, or completing you in a sense with a channel or a gate that you don't have, that makes you feel more complete or more whole. And the thing is though, one of the things I was reading about, and I thought this was really interesting, is that, so if you look at your own charts too, right, and you see like 2 defined centers that are connected. So say you see like, maybe it's, maybe you have the head center defined. I'm sorry, maybe you have the ajna defined, which is the 2nd center down from the top, and the throat defined, which is the 3rd center down from the top. And maybe, so those 2 centers are defined, they're colored in, but maybe there's not like a full channel connection to those centers, or there's one but not another one. Anyway, when you get into conversation with someone or in somebody else's aura that has a gate that is connecting those two centers together, you can get locked in, you can get hooked into their way of like processing things, because you're going to be conditioned by their energy when you're in their field, because you don't have that energy, they have it. So you're in their energy field. They're completing your circuit for you, so to speak. So while completing that circuit, it can just pay attention to how you feel when you're around certain people, because as they're completing your circuits, so to speak, pay attention to go, how do I feel when I'm around this person? You know, is this feeling good? Because here's the thing. With each person that you're coming into contact with that might be completing a circuit, like within your human design for you, you have 1,080 different possibilities in each gate. So the beautiful thing with this is anybody with a split definition, which is the majority of people out there, sample the energy. You get to sample who you're around. So when you're out in public, see who you're drawn to, like naturally, even just like visually, even energetically, even tone of voice, even, you know, whatever it is, just see who you're drawn to. You don't necessarily have to pull their charts if you don't know them, but just pay attention to who you're around, because and see how you feel when you're around certain people, because there's over 1,000 different possibilities of how you could process information based on how someone might be completing a particular circuitry in your chart. So, and this is just having fun with the energies too that you're in. So I hope I didn't make that more difficult than really what it is. So any feedback? Any questions? Any confusion?
Erin, I have a question. What's the G center?
The G center is like the diamond right in the middle.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Yes, you're welcome. So, and basically like the triple split, like I said, it's just more, they have more defined centers in their chart that are missing a connection between the defined centers. So it's a place like within, just think it, like I said, think of it as a roadway where like the centers are like a center here, like if you're on a roadway, right? Could be like you're at your home, that's the center, right? Just like the head center or whatever. The center is your home. Your destination is, you know, a friend's house, right? So you're going to that person's house. Those two centers, all of a sudden you're driving along and you have a detour. You can't get there in a straight line. So it's going to take you longer to get to that person's house because of construction on the way, or there's, you know, something going on that roadway. So you have to go around and try to get to it another place. It's going to take you longer and you're not going to be able to, like, you know, to get there as quickly. So anything other than a single definition, generally needs other people to help process because it helps to bring in clarity. You know, so there might be other centers over here. It's like another island over here that's like not in communication with this part here in the body. So it's like, oh, wait, so you need somebody to help bridge those two together to go, oh, okay, now I have clarity of like how I feel or what my fears are or how I'm being, you know, my rhythm, you know, my own internal rhythm of how that's being processed. And so anyway, so just that's pretty much what definition is. So it's how their circuitry is in their chart and how quickly they process information within themselves if they need other people to help process information. Quadruple split, again, 1% of the population, they need a lot of time to process information and a lot of just, patience within themselves and other people that have patience for them as well too. So, all right. Any questions before we move on to the 9 centers, starting with the head? All right. So the 9 centers. I put a couple graphs in here that I made a while back. So this is the defined head center right here. So this would all be colored in. Undefined is not colored in. It will just be open or it'll be white on your chart. So definition in the centers means anything that's defined, anything that's colored in is consistent and fixed energy. And it impacts other people. You can think of it as like, like a speaker, like one of those like kind of projector kind of speaker things, you talk into and it goes out, I'm talking about, I'm not sure exactly what it's called, but you can think of like a defined center could be like that. So it's this energy that's constantly there, it's consistent, and it is projecting outwards, and it's conditioning other people. It's impacting other people. So, the undefined centers is the ones that are not colored in. It means it's mutable energy. It's inconsistent. It depends on the environment that you're in and the people that you're around. Could be smells you're around, colors you're around, and just how you feel in those different environments. And one of the biggest things about undefined centers is that the defined centers project out, the undefined centers bring in, right? So they're bringing everything into them, but they amplify and reflect back what they're bringing in. So oftentimes, if you are, let's say a head center, right? Like if you're around somebody that, like if say you have an undefined head center and you're around somebody with a defined head center, you as an undefined head center, you're going to be taking in the defined head centers, inspiration, ideas, all these things. And you might be answering questions that aren't even yours, but they're the other person's. So it governs our pineal gland, and it can give those times when you're with somebody that has definition or vice versa. Say you have the definition and somebody else doesn't. Those moments of like, I was just thinking that. And then the other person says it. Because in the field, when you're with somebody, you tend to pick that up and then you can speak it out. And then that person with the definition is like, oh my gosh, like I was just thinking that. So, so that's what happens with the undefined centers. So, this is where conditioning happens the most, is in the white centers. So anywhere you have an undefined center, and we're just going to talk about the head tonight, it's not even a possibility, but you will be conditioned in that center because it's open, it's taking everything in. And from birth to 8, sometimes up to 12-ish or so, you're bringing everything in, you're a sponge, and you're going to reflect back your environment. You're going to reflect back, like you're going to amplify, and you're going to reflect back, not necessarily you, but what your environment is. So this is the places that we really have to decondition, because these are the vulnerable places within ourselves. But this is also, because it is the most vulnerable places within ourselves, it's also the potential for the greatest wisdom as well, when we can decondition. Any question on defined centers and undefined centers and what that means when you see a colored center versus a undefined or not colored in center? Okay, so the head center, like I said, it's right here, top of the chart. It is a pressure center. There are 2 pressure centers in the chart, and this is one of them. This is the center for inspiration, but it's also the pressure to answer questions. And it has abstract, logical, and individual gates in it. It only has 3 gates in the center. And like I said earlier, it's associated with the pineal gland. So for all those undefined head centers out there, and the majority of people do have undefined head centers. I believe it's about 30% maybe of the population that has defined head center. The undefined head center, it's easy to feel inspired all the time. Taking an inspiration and amplifying it. And oftentimes, if you're around somebody that has a definition in their head center, you're going to be very inspired by them, maybe not knowing it's coming from them, but that's like you're constantly taking in information, you're constantly taking in inspiration, you're constantly taking in, it's this pressure to know. Also, it's this pressure to understand. It's this pressure, it's not really to understand, but it's this pressure to know. And the undefined head center, it can feel pressure to act on the inspiration in the moment, until like oftentimes though, until like they're in a different environment and something else can inspire them. And so oftentimes, without knowing this and without awareness around this, like there's so many things that can feel inspiring. So it's like, what do? I don't know what I do. There's so much that's like that I'm inspired by, like I don't know what to even like hone in on, right? So sometimes it can, this person like with an undefined head center can sometimes seem kind of flighty, kind of airheady, kind of like not being able to like going, okay, what are they going to be doing this week? Is it this or is it this, or are they going to change it next week or whatnot? And so but the wisdom here, the deep wisdom here is that it's to know what inspirations to take action on. So it's really about which one sticks over time. It's not in the moment necessarily that you're inspired. It's paying attention to the inspiration that comes in, kind of putting it in your back pocket and seeing if it sticks, seeing if it stays there, and it's a pressure center. So the pressure is going to come in to go, I need to do something about this inspiration. The wisdom though is going, okay, I feel the pressure to do something, but I'm not going to. I'm going to just wait. So especially, the generators out there, generators and manifesting generators, the biggest trap you can fall into is when your mind gives you, or your head center right here, the inspiration center gives you something like, I'm so inspired internally, right? And then you take action on it, because then it'll always be like a flop, or you'd be forcing it. It never really turns out the way that you want it to go. So putting it in your back pocket, as a generator to see, and then going, okay, is it going to show up in my, external realm? Just because it's up here and I'm inspired doesn't mean that it's time to take action right now. It's time to pay attention to that inspiration. Sometimes it's just being inspired for the sake of being inspired, just to be inspired. So how I look at this as someone with an undefined head center, can I stay in the inspiration and just have fun being inspired and feeling inspired without having to do something about it? So much of this is like with the undefined centers is not taking action on these things that come into our field all the time. It's like I'll equate it to even like it's like sex basically. So it's like, can I be in the energy without having to like get to the end, right, of that energy? Or can I just be in that energy just for the sake of being in that energy and enjoy that energy? Can I enjoy just the inspiration just for the sake of the inspiration without having to go, oh, I need to do something about this now, and like boom, because then it just doesn't really ever like it just doesn't, it's not correct basically. So the undefined head center is like, it's awesome, like, and use it like for creativity, right? Like somebody with undefined head center, it's like write about it, journal about it, like use it for your creative purposes, but not necessarily to like go start a business right away, or to take action on that, like in a physical sense, but use it just to be inspired and to have fun with just being inspired. And then to know based on time, what is correct, and based on your strategy and your authority of what it is then to take action on. So give you an example based on the types. Somebody with an undefined head center, that's a generator. You get inspired to do something. Correct thing to do would be, all right, I'm inspired. Now I'm just going to see. Is somebody from the external realm going to ask me to do something about this? Like, hey, you should do this, or you should start a class on this, or you should start a business on this, or, have you really thought about doing this? And then it's like, okay, now I'm getting this external thing that I can respond to, rather than if responding to my own inspiration, coming in. Now I have actually an external like validation of that inspiration. And now I can take action on that if it's still correct. Projector would be like, I'm inspired. But then it's like, all right, is somebody going to come in and invite you, right? To like do that, or to allow that to play out, right? And to recognize maybe your inspiration in this, or maybe your talent in that, whatever you're inspired by. And so let's see, a manifestor. Manifestor can initiate, because a manifestor has that aura to just penetrate and just initiate. Reflector has to wait 28 days, right? Like, all right, I'm inspired, but I have to sit there and wait on it. The hardest thing is to wait, right? Like with anybody, with no matter what type we are, the hardest thing is to wait. But again, even as a manifestor, always go back to your strategy and authority, right? So whatever your strategy and authority is, wait on that, or always allow it to filter through that before you're taking action on any inspiration. Defined head center is consistent internal inspiration and constantly inspiring others. So someone with a defined head center has a very active mind. It's hard sometimes for that mind to get still. It can be hard. Well, it can be hard for both, like for meditation purposes and stuff, but it's really about like, there's constantly like action. There's constant, it's hard to, a defined head center can't just empty the mind, because it's consistent energy all the time in that space. And so basically, like, they're always asking questions of themselves and, needing to feel like they need to answer those. It's a pressure to answer these questions like for themselves. But sometimes it's just questions for the sake of questions, and just having fun with those questions and just seeing and playing with those. Right. And so if you have a defined head center, if you know somebody with a defined head center, pay attention to how people are with you in the environment and what's being reflected back of like ideas, inspiration, questions, things like that. And just pay attention to that, because it could be coming from you, from your definition, and then you can kind of get a reflection back on who you are. So any defined center, it's beautiful to have somebody else in their environment that is undefined, because that undefined center will be like a mirror back to the definition, back to that defined center. And so then you can kind of see like, oh, this is actually how I'm impacting the other in my field. So here's like I said, a couple of pictures of what it looks like in the chart. So like I was saying, with the undefined centers, this is the most vulnerable place in our chart, is where we're undefined, because we're constantly being programmed by society, by others, by just transits, all the neutrinos, right, in the field that come in and penetrate our being. So here's some deconditioning questions for the undefined head center, but also for the defined head center as well too, because just because we're defined in an area doesn't necessarily mean that we're not conditioned. It may not be as much of a conditioning as the undefined center, but we're still, just psychology, right, has shown us that, like, and childhood behavior, like from birth to those critical years where our brains are literally just receiving all this stuff. That we have to decondition no matter whether we're defined or not. However, to decondition from a defined center is going to be simpler and a little easier than an undefined center, because not as much, you're not going to be conditioned as much. So let me just ask here in the class, like is there anybody defined right here that's on class tonight? You can't, if you are, say, speak up and say, I am. If I don't hear anything, I'll just assume that you're not, and that everybody's undefined. Is everybody undefined?
Wendy is defined.
Okay.
Not on.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, it's rarer to have a defined head center for sure than an undefined head center. So basically, undefined head center, then a deconditioning questions basically are right here. I'll just read them here. Do I feel the pressure to answer everybody else's questions? Right. So the biggest thing is to be like, wow, does this even matter to me? So as somebody that has an undefined head center for myself, I'm like, it's always going through and going, okay, what am I thinking about? What am I trying to process in my head right now? And am I trying to answer questions for other people that aren't mine to answer? It's theirs. I'm just picking up on their energy because I'm receiving everything and I'm knowing what they're thinking. I'm knowing what they're processing. So I'm wanting to answer this question, or I'm wanting to like bring up a topic, maybe I'm like, do I really even care about this? So these are the things that you can do for yourself, is being like, wait a minute, am I bringing up a topic I don't really even care about? Does this even concern me at all to even like bring this up or talk about? Am I like truly utilizing this energy of inspiration in the highest way? Or am I just wasting it, trying to, answer everybody else's questions and trying to figure out things that really don't even matter to me? So, and I have fun, like, in the inspiration, but be careful that it doesn't pull you in all these different ways where you're going to get in a place where you're going to feel overwhelmed. If you feel overwhelmed, take a step back and be like, okay, whoa, what am I doing here? Where's my head right now? Am I trying to, process too many things right now? Am I trying to answer too many questions? Am I thinking about things that really just don't matter? And how can I just calm it down? And so, because the thing is sometimes when you're feeling inspired to do something, it is just the inspiration that you are inspired by, somebody else's inspiration. Or so I'll give you an example. So say you're talking or you're listening. Let's say you're listening to, somebody's story, like a success story or a business story where they, were able to like help all these people and make a lot of money and all these things. And you're like, oh my gosh, I'm so inspired by this. I should start this too. I should do this too. I should do something like this, right? Maybe it's just the fact of their energy that is inspiring you, but not the necessarily like what they're doing. Does that make sense? So it's this, so be careful with the pressure and be like, am I under pressure right now to do something with what is, with what my head is going through, what my head is processing? Do I feel like I need to do something about it? Or can I just sit? And this is where it's pressure. It's this pressure. And it will never, like, to do more with it or to act more upon it won't ever relieve the pressure. So it's like, I think a lot of times with the undefined head center, it's like, I need to take, I can't talk right now. I need to take action on this because I don't know if that inspiration is going to come again. But it will, because the truth is that you can be inspired all the time. You're deeply inspired all the time. But it's coming in from the outside. It's coming in from other people, situations, things like that. So if you're feeling in a place where you just feel like this overwhelm or you're feeling pressure, take a step back, like go out in nature, ground in, things like that. So a defined head center, a defined head center can like have their own kind of decisions, rules, answer their own questions in their head that they're living by, basically, that can sometimes drive them crazy. So it's like what I was just saying here, like here in the notes. Am I able to separate and process the questions that I'm coming up with without allowing the answers to define me? And now a lot of these questions are just contemplation questions. And it's, you know, can I stay curious in this process and know and trust that just my process is having an impact on the people around me and allowing others to be inspired without even having to verbalize it. So it's just knowing that, trying to quiet, you know, the mind a little bit, not to quiet it, but just pay attention to the stories, pay attention to the questions you're trying to like process in your mind. And again, making sure that you're not driving yourself crazy, you know, with everything that's going on up there. But it is a center of inspiration. So it's really about how you're being inspired, what you're doing with that inspiration, and the pressure to either act on that inspiration or to just sit with it. And just knowing that sometimes the being inspired, just being in the feeling and the energy of inspiration is, you don't have to do anything about it. It's just being in that energy. Any questions on the head center right now? How is it like for, does this resonate for undefined head center with anybody here?
Absolutely.
So tell me more, Mandy.
So I do. So it's interesting you gave the example about, like, you have, say you have a friend or someone who's doing all these great things and they're, you know, making all this money doing it, or they're so inspiring and you get inspired too. So like that's kind of what was happening to me last week. I was getting so inspired by my friends and what they are doing. So they're into social media. And so just watching them work while we were out in Mexico and putting things together, I'm like, gosh, I can do this too. And the thing is, like, I take that inspiration and know that I can do it, but my motivation is not the same. And I had to learn that in the recent past, that yes, I can do it, but I have to find my own motivation, because I can say, yes, I'm gonna go do a video here, I'm gonna post it, and then the steam is gone as soon as I sit down to make the video. Why? Because that's that's not my thing.
Yeah.
But so that makes a lot of sense for me. I just experienced that. I had a lot of inspiration happening over the last week, and I'm like, yes, I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna do it. And then when I do it, I'm like, this is not that great. Like, and then she's like, no, it really is great. You just need to be gentle with yourself. But for me, I get inspired. Sometimes I move quickly, and then I sit back and be like, that's it. I'm bored of it after like a week. I'm ready to move on. So yeah.
Well, yeah, exactly. I love that. You know, and that's a true, you know, manifesting generator, right? Because it's like, oh, do this, right? We move fast. Like as manifesting generator, it's like, I can do that, and we can. But like you just said, it's really not for you because it's not lasting, right? That was the biggest thing with the undefined head center. It's like, all right, is this going to stick? Does this inspiration stick? Does it stand the test of time, right? Or not, right?
Right. And so the thing is, it for me, there's aspects of it that will, but committing to the consistency with being online in the social space is not really my thing right now. And so that's where it's like, well, I just need to take baby steps, because I'm just not the one to be out on the forefront or be on social media all day. You can tell because I totally missed a couple posts. So that's the part where I fall short. But I've learned to take the inspiration that I've gotten from them and make it my own and put it into another space that's more authentic to me. That's the part that's lasting. And then that will somehow, some way open up the door for me to be more present on social, in the social world like that.
I love that. And what I hear in that, Mandy, is you're taking inspiration, you're allowing it to inspire you just for what is possible.
Yeah.
And then making it your own rather than having to do something about it right away, going, oh my gosh, like that's possible. All right, well, what else is possible then for me? That's correct for me, knowing that these other things could be possible out there. And that's one of the things too with the Head Center. It's like, gosh, what else is possible, right? That's a question of the Head Center, and that's a question that I always ask, I have for years. And it's like, okay, what else is possible? But then sometimes it can get like bogged down, like, oh, this, or nothing, right? Like depending on the day and depending who are around. But yeah, and it's really important for somebody with Undefined Head Center too, though, to be around who you're around will and how you're in, like, how is your relationship to life, right? It's like how I look at this center too is like, it's our relationship to the magic of what life can bring in, because it's about inspiration, right? So do we look at life and go, gosh, like anything is possible? I don't have to do everything, but anything is possible, right? And just constantly be in awe of life and the magic that it can hold, right? Or like, and that will come with Undefined Head Center, like who we're around, right? If we have an undefined Head Center and we're like kind of struggling for the inspiration, or we're like, ugh, life kind of just bites, and
Right.
whatever, it's like, who are we hanging around, right? Because we're taking all that in with the Undefined Head Center. It's like really about how we get to process like how magical we view life.
Yep.
So I love that. I love that you get to be around people who show, right? Like show another way of like being, and then you realizing like, oh, that's so awesome. Like I'm so inspired, but that doesn't have to be me exactly, right? Like I can do my own.
Right.
You're inspired to do your own thing, but not that necessarily, right?
Right. Because my steam, I'm like, girl, I don't even understand how your brain works. She's like, the brain just works like this. I was like, mine doesn't. But it's very inspiring, and it gives me an opportunity to see what is possible. Like if they can do it, so can I. But then again, like I said, staying authentic to myself is the thing I had to realize, and being okay when I'm like, you know what, it's not for me.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love that, being okay when it's just not for me. And that's the thing, like that's just the wisdom, right? Like within the Undefined Head Center is like, oh, I don't have to take action on everything just because I'm inspired, right? Because then we lead ourselves in all these different ways and paths. And then we're like, what am I even doing anymore? I'm frazzled and I have all of these freaking things. And I will say this is one caveat, like for a manifesting generator, it is normal to have more than one iron in the fire. That is the type that you need to have more than one iron in the fire. You have to. But however, if you have 10, it might be too many. Like, because it's just, then it's like there's not enough time. There's just not enough time. Even as manifesting generators, as time benders, there's still not enough time to have all that. And I'm realizing that myself. Actually, I've had to pull back on a couple of things that I was going to be doing too, because it's like I can't do it all. Like I need to do more than one thing. I need to do even more than a couple of things, but I can't do 8. So yeah, but it's learning, and it's having the wisdom of going, okay, wait, what is, and some of it comes from knowing our cross, right? We're not going to go into that in this class, but I mean, you can read about your cross though too, online, but knowing what we're here for, right? Knowing who we are, knowing our design, knowing all these things will help us go, oh, okay, yeah, I don't actually have to take action on that, and really getting in touch with our strategy and our authority, and like Mandy, like there might be a day or two where you're like, I'm so inspired, like today I'm gonna go make a video, but I'm not gonna do it every day or every other day or whatever, right?
Because I made one and I'm like, yes, this feels really good, but then I'm like, well, what's next? I don't feel like making another. Not right now, at least.
Not right now. And that's the sacral right there. It's sacral. Like, no, I don't have energy for it right now. Like, but maybe in 2 days you would be like, oh yeah, I'm on, let's do it. Yep. It's trusting that process. So I love it. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
Does anybody else would like to share their experience with their undefined head center? Or,
I mean,
oh, go ahead.
so yeah, I definitely feel that I'm deeply inspired all the time because I feel like I want to do everything, try everything, because like even when I got into this human design stuff, I was working on, I'm gonna try to do this yoga thing. I'm gonna try to do this. I was actually studying a little bit Kabbalah and trying to do this Reiki stuff, writing this course for a Reiki course. And it's just, I got so much going on. But yeah, I just need to be less inspired. How do you be less inspired?
How do you be less inspired?
Yeah.
Well, I don't think it's about being less inspired. I think it's knowing what to take action on and what is not necessarily like correct to take action on. Does that make sense?
Right.
And knowing what is a good use of your energy of inspiration and what is going to just actually like bring in that overwhelm or that feeling of now I have all this pressure, right? Inspiration should be fun, right? If we're having fun in the things that give us inspiration, beautiful, wonderful, right? Where it's like that beautiful, like kind of sweet spot in there. When we're feeling it's that pressure and we're like, oh, the pressure. It's like, it will never end. So the more we take on, actually, the worse we're doing kind of for ourselves, because then the more pressure we're actually going to feel. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. And I was just thinking, okay, so, I have a 3 line. So I think of that inspiration, then I have to go and experiment with all these things, find what works for me. I don't know.
So yes, you do need to experiment with things, not everything. But yes, with the things that light you up. What is your authority again?
Oh my gosh. I'm a splenic authority.
Okay. So I mean, it's like the thing is with splenic, it's that just kind of that intuitive hit, it's that intuitive hit of like, okay, yep, it's time to go. Yep. Oh, yep.
Right. Remember when I decided I wanted to do your class? I'm like, yep. It was one morning, I seen your post. I'm like, yep, I'm going to do that.
Yep.
Didn't take a lot of thinking. It was just, yep, that's what I'm going to do.
Yeah. So pay attention to that, right? So there might be some things that like, that you're like, oh, I want to do that, but I don't know, but I do, right? Like maybe those things, it's like, oh, nope, it's not correct. Because it's not that quick hit of like, because the spleen, it's like there's no emotion with it, right? It's just I gotta do this. It's just like this kind of like, I gotta do this. Like even your body like move forward, and it like, yes, I gotta do this. And there might be some things that like you look at and go, oh, I really want to do this. But if you're kind of contemplating it, it's not your spleen. That's your mind. Does that make sense? And that's the thing, same thing, even with anything. I mean, even a generator, sacral. It's like, I always tell generators too, and the radio, it's like, if you're like, I kind of want to do this. Somebody asks you a question. You want to do this? Well, I don't know. It's like, nope. Because if you have to go, spleen is very similar. You have to go, oh, I don't know. Nope, it's not correct. You don't even have to think about it, because your mind will try to rationalize. Your mind will try to be like, oh, you should do this because this would be really good for business. And this would be really good for this, blah, 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 blah. Come up with a story about why, right? It's not correct though. That's your mind trying to rationalize, right? And then we can laugh at our mind and go, oh, I see what you're doing here. I don't know if that happens to you, Alicia, but yeah, trust those kind of intuitive hits too. So anybody else want to share about, I know Danielle and Sue.
Yes, I am a manifesting generator, and I do have an undefined head center. And something you said just like hit me in the head. I want to do so many things all at once. I mean, years ago, I was actually working 4 different jobs because I just felt like I had to do this and do that and make more money and this and that. And the other day, I had a little job posting come in, and it was for something I used to do in obstetrics, and it's writing test questions. I'm like, oh, that sounds fun. And Eddie actually said, Sue, step back and just think about this for a second. You have like 3 things in the fire right now. You don't need to add another one. And I actually went, oh man, but I didn't act on it. I've been thinking about it. And now I'm like, you know what? I think he's right. I think I should just not respond to that, let it simmer and give it a while and see if that even resonates with me in, say, a week, you know? So
Yeah.
that really is true. It really is true for me.
Yeah. That's awesome. Way to go, Ed, right? Like, it's good to have a partner, you know, right? That like kind
That's
of,
right.
so
And I want to look at his chart because he may have a defined, like he may complete my one channel that I have a gate to, and he may be that little bump on the head that I need to knock it off. You know?
yeah, absolutely. No, it's great. That's awesome. Well, manifesting generators, like, it's so like, yeah, it's all those irons in the fire of like, oh, I gotta do this, I gotta do this, I gotta do this. And it, like you said, especially with the undefined head center, it's like,
Mm.
is yours completely undefined, or do you have any gates in there at all?
I have a gate
Okay.
from 64. It's one of those striped ones down to 62, but it goes through the ajna. So it goes down to my throat.
Okay.
It's like behind the ajna.
Okay.
And I have a partially defined one from 63 to 56, but most of it's white.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, it's tough sometimes of knowing, you know, but it's like taking a step back, just like what you're
Mhm.
saying. I mean, like, okay, wait a minute. I'm gonna let this like sit for just a minute. And again, if it's meant to be,
Mhm.
it will stick. It will keep coming back in the field. We have these beliefs, right? Especially with undefined head center, any pressure center. The root is another pressure center at the bottom of the chart. We'll go through that later, but we have these beliefs that drive our undefined centers. So, and one of the things that drives a head center too is like, if I don't act on this, then I'm going to miss out. And it's not true, because it's a fear response, right? That is a lack response. That's coming from lack rather than going, oh, wait, no. There's no right or wrong in this. If this is meant for me, it will be for me when the timing is correct. So when we act on something out of that, it's like, oh boy, no, this is not correct, right? Rather than like being grateful, here's just something that just came to me with an undefined head center, like moving into a space of being grateful. Gosh, I'm so grateful that I can be so inspired by the people that I'm around or the situations that I put myself in. And then I don't have to act on all of these because the inspiration will come. It will keep coming. I'm inspired now, so I can trust I'll be inspired, tomorrow or the next day also, or the next day. And there's going to be days where we're like, I don't want to be inspired by anything. I just want to shut down to the world. And that's normal too, right? But then the next day after that, well, it's just these cycles and moving through it. And when we go on this, like, don't act from it, like so much of the undefined heads or undefined centers, you're going to find it comes from fear. When we act on it, a story then happens in our mind of like, if I don't do this and this, oh, I got to act on it. Oh, I got to go do this. I got to find my direction. I got to find love. I got to feel lovable. I got to act on this inspiration. I have to prove my worth. I have to do something to do this, to do this, to do this. It's like, rather than going, whoa, what am I doing here? Right? Then we literally come outside of our own self when we're doing these things, rather than staying grounded and going, oh, wait, where am I at right now? Okay, I'm good. I'm good. Yeah. Do I have to do this? No. It's like having a conversation with ourselves, right? So it's so important. I know, Danielle, you wanted to say something. I wanted to give you a moment to say something too.
No, thank you. I was actually wanting to go last, and I just unmuted myself in case everybody was done talking about that, so I could ask one more thing before I had to all get off.
Sure.
So if anybody else has any more head centers, I definitely can relate to everybody who's open, because I'm the exact same way they've all elaborated on. So I don't think I need to say any more, because I'm the same person. I like to bounce from one thing to the next thing to the next thing. So I'm excited, inspired by so many different things. And it's like, I feel like for me though, is the one thing that irritates me is I feel like sometimes I never complete the one thing that I was totally so interested in. And then I move to something else. And then I want to come back to that because I never completed that. And that to me gets irritating with myself. It's like, okay, you've got to complete something that you're interested in fully, you know, before you jump to something else.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I do find that I do that a lot. Like I just bounce a lot. So
Manifesting generator, right?
yes, definitely. Definitely.
Yeah. That's normal.
But no, the one thing I wanted to ask was the superpower thing. I know you had, I didn't want to forget about that. You had said something about everybody's superpower, and I was very intrigued by that. So I just wanted to ask that question.
Yes. So I'll go into it. I have to look at each one of your charts in a different program to see. So when we do our reading, we'll go through it for sure. I'll bring it out, you know, for you as well too. But yes, so it's a fun thing to like tune into, and I can do that as kind of a fun thing. Maybe like one of our last classes or something like that. I can bring that out for everybody that so you can play with it. It's basically yeah, it's like a super sense. It's like I just call it superpower, but like a super sense. There's like a sense that we all have that we can tune into. And it's funny, whenever I brought it out to certain people, they're like, oh my God, like, that's so funny. I've always said this or thought this about myself, or other people have said like, oh my gosh, you know, like one of them is smell, you know, and so like they can just smell even like people, or they can smell environments and know if it's correct. It's all unconscious, but when we can bring it and shine a light on it, then we can start to play with that energy and, you know, and have fun with it. So anyway, but yes, we'll definitely.
Yeah, that's cool. Okay.
It is cool. There's so much in our chart. I mean, that's the thing. There's so much. Like I was saying, I think down to environment, down to food, down to perspective, even like there's some people that are supposed to be looking at things at the external world and keeping score, and you know, it's kind of like the news reporter, right? Like looking at all the current events, right? And going, oh, this is happening, oh, this is happening, this is happening, this is happening, all these things, right? Having this external world view. And there's some people like myself, actually, I was all into that for so long. And it's not that I don't like pay attention, but it can't be my focus, because I get off focus when I am focusing on that, because we're always attracted to the opposite, right? The thing that we're opposite from. Well, when it's within ourselves, then we're not going to ever like fulfill like what we're here to fulfill. And so then we get outside of going, oh, it's actually not, you know, it's not correct for me to just focus on this perspective, a worldview perspective of this. This is actually correct for me. And my transferred, like how I'm, you know, the not self theme, right? Every type has a not self theme, right? Generator is frustration, right? Projector is bitterness, right? Manifestor is anger, you know, reflector is disappointment. It's like the same thing, you know, with that, we get this transferred view. And then all of a sudden we're like, okay, why do I keep running into resistance in my life? So there's all these different things that we can look at in the chart, the deeper we go, you know, but obviously we have to deal with the foundation first, because, you know, which is why we're here in this class, this foundation.
Yes.
So many layers and so many things within this that just gold, you know, as we learn more and go deeper. But even just to know type, strategy, and authority, that will lead you into your correct environment, your correct perspective. The more you just work with those things, again, like I said before, it's like a key. Everything is a key. Once you get in tune with, oh, this is my type, oh, this is my aura, this is how I impact other people when I'm with them, and paying attention to that, right? Because it's becoming more self-aware. That's a key to the next thing, strategy and authority. Oh, okay. Now my strategy, my authority, it's like to respond. Oh, sacral. Oh, emotional. Oh, splenic, you know, whatever that is for you. And then the more we play with that and really get into that, then like the next key is, you know, is this. And then the next key is this. And the next key, it unlocks the next door and the next door and the next door and the next door. Oftentimes within this, we want to know everything that's like not the foundation, thinking that like that it's a mind thing, and it's not. Human design is an experience. We have to experiment with it. That's why reading people's charts, getting in and doing that, taking the chance, taking the risk to get in there and say something that may not be correct. Well, then you'll know it's not correct, right? Like there's no like punishment or anything like this, that in this, like we have to experiment with it. And if we don't experiment with it, we're not going to really understand it, because it's not anything that the mind can truly grasp. It's through experimentation that we'll have the ahas, like, oh, that's how that shows up. That's how that is. Oh, because now we've done it, we've experienced it, we've seen it, we've heard it, we've smelled it, you know, we've done it. So that's how I'll leave this class tonight. Thank you so much for coming on board tonight. And I just truly enjoy being here every Tuesday with you all so much. So I hope you're all enjoying and finding value in this as well. And next time, like pay attention, like this week, if you haven't gotten to your you know, partner stuff yet, try to do that. Like even just pushing your edge, you know, I know that there's some people that are kind of nervous and whatnot. Push your edge, you know, it's the only way that growth's going to come, you know. And so do that, practice more this week with however you can, friends, you know, relatives, whatever, co-workers, whatever, kids. And then try to pay attention to the head center, pay attention to those questions that I put in the class notes. That's how you're going to decondition the undefined head center. The deconditioning part comes with reflecting on those questions and then catching yourself in the moment when you're like, oh my gosh, I'm thinking about things that don't even matter right now. Oh my gosh, I'm trying to like figure these things out or answer somebody else's questions that's probably in my field. Like say you're at the gym or say you're in the store and you're like thinking about things. Pay attention. What am I thinking about when I'm around these people? Oh, I wonder what might be going on in their mind right now. Like have fun with it, right? And just get curious about that. And then just like have fun and try to like be in a situation where say you feel inspired, don't take action on it, but just see how long you can stay in that inspiration without acting on it and see what that feels like. And that might feel really uncomfortable, right? Like, oh, I feel like I need to do it. Just pay attention to what comes up. This is how we deprogram or decondition. This is how we deprogram all that programming so that we can then really start to like, you know, walk on our actual true like geometry. That's the thing. Like this is about geometry, right? So we can be in our own correct geometry moving through this world. So it's the first step. Awesome. All right. Have a beautiful rest of your night, and can't wait to be with you all next week. And if you need anything in the meantime, please don't hesitate to reach out.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Good night, everyone.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Night.
Bye.